Scholar is one of the 2 barrier healers available in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, some might call this class as a pet healer, using fairies as a catalyst for most of their healing, and today we'll talk about how this works for them. As always, my name is Kuwago, and welcome to Healer Studies Scholar 101. We'll be starting this off with one of the key components of healers in this game, damage skills. As I've said before, and probably going to be time and again in the future, the best way to heal is to deal damage to your enemies, of course. Scholar has a 4 DPS skill that makes up its damage potential. First off is Broil 4, your main single target DPS skill. It has a damage potency of 295 for only 400 MP. Like I said before, this is going to be your main DPS skill. So make sure it's on a comfortable button to use because, trust me, you'll be pressing this button time and again. Next up is your damage over time skill in biology, or biolysis, dealing a 70 potency damage over 30 seconds. This is an instant cast GCD skill, so it's a great way to use as a mobility, especially for those moments in your dungeons or your raiding where there's a lot of damage going on and you just need to reposition as quickly as you can. Ruin 2 is another single target GCD skill that deals 220 potency. And I know what you're thinking, why should I use this when I already have another in the form of Broil 4? Well, this is another one to use for movement. This is an instant cast GCD skill, and it does deal more damage than biolysis, so this is the better option between the two. Another benefit to this skill is that you can use this kind of as a buffer in order for you to weave in skills after skills. So yes, there is a use for Ruin 2. Last but not least is Art of War 2. This is an AoE skill around the user that deals 165 potency to all nearby enemies. And when I say nearby, it's nearby. The range in the skill is a very small circular AoE coming from your character. The next part of Scholar that we're going to talk about is job mechanics. Summon Eos and Summon Selene is an important skill to have on your hotbar, mainly because this is the only way to summon your fairies. These 2 fairies automatically heal any party members who's below their max HP. Without them, you'll be missing out on both their passive healing and some great healing skills. Don't forget to summon these fairies, they're your best friend. Next up we have is Ether Flow, which is your first job gauge. On top of restoring 20% of your maximum MP, this enables you to use 4 different skills: Energy Drain, Lustrate, Sacred Soil, and Indomitability. Dissipation is your level 60 capstone ability. In exchange for a full charge of your Ether Flow gauge and an extra 20% healing magic potency, you sacrifice your fairies to the flames of hell. Now, be mindful when using this ability since your passive healing with the fairy will be unavailable while this skill is active. Lastly, Ether Pack is the final gauge you unlock. This skill turns into Fae Union, which uses 10 fairy gauge over time as it heals its target for 300 potency. This job maxes out at 100 and can be refreshed by using your Ether Flow abilities. This next section will be talking about the utility of Scholars. The first utility skill that healers learn is their Resurrection ability. This is pretty much a staple in every healer's and some casters' skill repertoire. Fae Illumination is a buff that increases healing magic potency of your party members, as well as reducing magic damage taken by 5%. This is a great skill to use for the damage-heavy part of duties, which usually needs heavy amounts of healings in between damage. The next skill we have on the list is Energy Drain. While this is an extra damage potential for Scholar, this also uses one of your Ether Flow gauge, so there is some trade-off for using this skill, especially since it doesn't contribute much to Scholar's overall damage. Additionally, this is an Ether Flow ability which charges the fairy gauge by 10. Sacred Soil is another Ether Flow ability. On top of increasing the fairy gauge by 10, this placeable ring reduces damage by 10% while also applying a regen with 100 potency to everyone inside the bubble. This is mostly used for heavier raid wides to help lessen incoming damage to the party, especially if the boss is stationary to really take advantage of the regen that it gives. Deployment tactics help increase survivability by extending Galvanize to the rest of the team. This is a buff given by Adloquium and Sucker. We'll talk more about that in the next section. Now, this skill is commonly used when Adloquium hits for critical healing to spread the stronger shield to the party. Emergency tactics works kind of like the opposite of deployment tactics, where instead of applying a shield, it actually turns the shield into flat HP heal, equivalent to the amount of damage the shield would have absorbed. This one is more commonly used when there is a dire need for more raw HP healing, or you can use it in duties where you're partnered up with a fellow sage or a fellow scholar. Chain Stratagem is your one and only raid buff, or more specifically, a debuff for the enemies. It increases the rate at which the target takes critical hits by 10%, and this is applied to the boss rather than the party. This is another advantage that Scholar has over Sage because it synergizes well with other jobs. Recitation is a unique utility skill. It makes Adloquium, Stalker, Indomitability, Excogitation heal for critical HP. Additionally, this also lets you use these skills without consuming their respective resources. For both Indomitability and Excogitation, that's a 1 free Aetherflow gauge, and for Adloquium and Sucker, it's a free MP usage. Next up, we have Protraction. This is a buff which is usually given to the tanks, as it increases the max HP of the target by 10% while also healing by that amount. Additionally, it also increases HP recovery from healing skills by 10%. You see where I'm going with this? This is extremely useful for tank busters as it makes healing through those damages easier. Lastly, we have Expedient. Expedient is Scholar's level 90 capstone ability. It reduces damage taken by 10% while also increasing movement speed. It is a very powerful utility skill that Scholar provides to everyone. Next up is the bread and butter of all healer class, healing skills. For single target healing, the first healing skill available to you for use will be Physic. Not Psychic, but Physic. It's a basic single target early level healing skill that heals for 450 potency for 400 MP. Next is Adloquium. This is the first barrier healing skill that Scholar has. It only heals for 300 potency but grants Galvanize, which is a shield equaling to 180% of the HP restored. Additionally, if Adloquium heals for critical HP, it will also grant Catalyze, adding another shield equaling to 180% of the HP restored. Now, there is a difference between these two shields, mostly because Galvanize is the only one that truly interacts with the rest of Scholar's skills. Lustrate is the next one on this list. This is an instant 600 potency heal that uses one Aetherflow gauge. It also increases the Faerie gauge by 10. This is a strong single target healing that is used to counter your tank busters. Another benefit that this skill has is that it can be used 3 times in a row. The last single target healing we have is Excogitation. It gives you or your party member Excogitation, which heals for 800 potency when the effect expires or when HP falls below 0. Additionally, just like Lustrate, it uses one Aetherflow gauge and increases the Faerie gauge by 10. For AoE healing, the first one you'll unlock is Whispering Dawn. This is one of your many Faerie skills, the one I was talking to you about earlier, which needs your Faerie to be active in order to be used. This one is an 80 potency regen for everyone nearby for 21 seconds. And like I said before, since this is a Faerie skill, the healing will come from wherever your Faerie is located, so be mindful of its location. Next is an AoE GCD healing called Stalker. It has a 200 potency AoE heal that also grants Galvanize. This time, it's a shield equaling to 160% of the HP restored. It's a regular AoE healing that heals nearby allies, and while the shields are weaker compared to Adloquium, the healing it grants to everyone, coupled with emergency tactics, is useful for the times that you really need some hefty healing. Next up is Indomitability. This is one of your ether flow skill, costing 1 research gauge for an AoE healing of 400 potency. Personally, this is pretty underwhelming considering that you have other healing skills for less cost. If I have to use it, it's usually as a last resort skill when I'm really in need of healing. Fae Blessing is another AoE healing and a free one compared to Indomitability. It does have a lower healing potency at 320 with a longer cooldown, but without the resource cost. Once again, this is another Faerie skill, so be mindful of where your Faerie is located before using this skill. Last but not least, Summon Seraph is your level 80 capstone skill. This replaces your Faerie and, obviously, summons Seraph to help you out for 20 seconds. While Seraph is out, this skill turns into Consolation, a 250 potency AoE heal that also gives a shield equaling to the amount of HP restored. What's more is that there's 2 charges that you can use back to back. And that's it! That's all of the skills that make up a great healer known as Scholar. It is one of the harder healing classes to choose from in the beginning. Compared to White Mage and Astrologian, the playstyle that Scholar encourages is contradictory to how healers are normally played. The addition of the Fairies, being a passive healing, acts as a safety net for those who apply shields a little late. If you enjoy a proactive and a mitigation playstyle to lessen incoming damage to the party, then Scholar is a right fit for your enjoyment. As always, my name is Kuwago, and I hope that this video has helped you choose Scholar as your next healer. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!